some of you, and now I'm talking to anybody who has been dumped. You know the sting of losing and not getting something you badly want. When that happens, show them what you are made of, she said during a commencement speech at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And Abramson's remarks came less than a week after her dismissal by publisher Arthur Sulzberger, which has triggered accusations of sexism in management issues at the Times and cast a spotlight on the internal politics of its newsroom. Sulzberger is a member of the family that controls the New York Times Co. NYT.N. And David Carr, the newspaper's media columnist, on Monday compared the fallout from her firing to a bloody episode of Game of Thrones. And the media frenzy surrounding the circumstances comes on reports that Abramson refused a payout package. In personal reflections, and while she acknowledged the controversy, Abramson never directly addressed the acrimonious details during her speech. And instead she touched on many influences in her life, including her parents Catherine Graham, who led her family's newspaper as publisher of the Washington Post, and her Times colleague James Rison. And she said her fighting spirit was lifted by a message sent to her last week by Anita Hill, the attorney who had accused Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment during hearings on his nomination as U.S. Supreme Court Justice in 1991. Abramson co-wrote a book with New Yorker writer Jane Mayer about Thomas. And Anita wrote me last week to say she was proud of me. That meant so much, Abramson said. And during her tenure at the Times, Abramson famously had the newspaper's iconic T tattooed on her back. When asked if she was going to remove it, she answered, "Not a chance." And I thought it was great, said Kelly Thompson of Maumelle, Arkansas, who was at Wake Forest to see her son graduate after Abramson's speech. She approached it head-on. It was a difficult problem and she didn't hide from it. And Abramson was the first woman to serve as the top editor of the Times. She was replaced by her deputy Dean Baquet, who is the first African-American to lead the newsroom. And Sulzberger on the defensive end. In a statement on Saturday, Sulzberger defended his actions, saying it was Abramson's management skills that led to her firing. He ticked off a list of reasons for the decision, including Abramson's arbitrary decision-making and public mistreatment of colleagues. And one incident that may have contributed directly to her dismissal was Abramson's courting of Guardian editor Janine Gibson to serve as her deputy without informing other senior editors, according to media reports. That angered Baquet and Sulzberger, the reports said. And in his statement, the publisher also flatly denied accusations that Abramson was paid less as executive editor than her predecessor or she was fired because of her gender. And in closing her speech, Abramson related an anecdote about her mother's knitting projects. Some of them turned out and others were itchy, she said, but her mother never stopped working hard and taking chances. And so today, you gorgeous brilliant people, get on with your knitting. And, reporting by Ken Otterberg and Winston-Salem and Jennifer Saba in New York, editing by Christian Plum, Francis Gary, Safina Merzarade and Bernard Orr. And back to top. And Thomson Reuters is the world's largest international multimedia news agency, providing investing news, world news, business news, technology news, headline news, small business news, news alerts, personal finance, stock market, and mutual funds information available on Reuters.com, video, mobile, and interactive television platforms. Thomson Reuters journalists are subject to an editorial handbook which requires fair presentation and disclosure of relevant interests. And NYSE and Amex quotes delayed by at least 20 minutes. NASDAQ delayed by at least 15 minutes. For a complete list of exchanges and delays, please click here.